And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this finally Friday. A gorgeous day out there with temperatures in the low 40s currently across much of the area. A little cooler in Lakes Country where they're still hanging on to a little bit of fog around the Perham, Detroit Lakes area and eastward from there. So those areas are a little bit cooler. But other than that, a beautiful, beautiful afternoon for this time of the year. Not a record today, but it looks like we will go down in the record books as we head into tomorrow. I'm Chief Meteorologist Wysocki, and our Ag Director Bridgette Readel joining us on the road again. Bridgette, how's your day going?
West of Medina so far today. I'd say there's a pretty intense lack of snowfall. Most of it has indeed melted. I can see that folks are looking at getting some of those fish houses off the water, mostly because as it's melting, there's just a lot of water on top and they can freeze back down into the ice and nobody needs to have to deal with that. So houses might be moving off just because of the really nice weather. I think that this is one of those pre-springs, maybe we can call it fall spring because we know that next week that will change for us.
Yeah, we do have some changes in the forecast for next week, Bridgette. But first we've got Tom on line one. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Dean, just quick question. Was yesterday the warmest Giving Hearts Day?
Tom, that's a good question. I'm going to go on record and say yes.
Yes.
I think Tom must mean it's warm because Warm Hearts gave $33 million.
Absolutely,
yesterday.
It was.
That's exactly right.
Yep. I know where you were going there, Tom. Yeah, a great day yesterday, and we want to thank everybody for that donated, whether it money or your time, to Giving Hearts. Just a record-setting day out there yesterday. So, yeah, Tom was spot on.
He really is, and if maybe you're not done yet, maybe you're waiting for your tax return. Perhaps there's something else that's coming up in your world. It's not just one day a year. If that is a favorite charity and you want to bless them with your time or your dollars throughout the year, none of those charities will turn you down.
Correct. Yes, and I'll tell you what, we've got some nice record-setting weather heading our way as we head into Saturday. Now, the records for today and Sunday are in the 50s, so obviously we're not going to get that. But the record for tomorrow is only 43 degrees, and it looks like we'll be in the mid-40s tomorrow. Now, today we're already at 43 degrees. We'll make it up to about 44, 45 this afternoon. Again, a little cooler in Lakes Country with, again, a light wind today out of the south. Just a beautiful day unless you like the snow, and we're going to continue to melt this away. And with the snow melt today, that'll push a little more moisture into the lower levels of the atmosphere, giving us some more patchy fog tonight with lows down into the 20s and then mid-40s tomorrow. Record-breaking day tomorrow expected. Sunday, we're looking at mid-40s as well. In fact, we're getting some indications some areas could push 50, believe it or not, on Sunday. So a beautiful weekend. And Monday will start off in the low 40s, and then that's when the changes come our way. We've got a storm system that'll be moving out of the Rockies Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, most of Tuesday should be okay, but Tuesday night we'll see snow overspread the area. It could start as a rain-snow mix briefly and then change over to snow. And then we'll be looking at snow most of the day on Wednesday, or at least the first half of the day. And temperatures fall off into the 20s by next week. Now, how much snow are we getting? That's the wild card question. We are going to get snow out of this. I put an article up on our website, WDAYradionow.com, and you might want to check that out because there's a couple of wild cards that are going to play a factor in this storm next week. If the storm comes out at us in two pieces, which one of the models is forecasting, then we'll probably only end up with about 2 to 4 inches. We can handle that. Not a big deal. But if the storm comes out as one piece, which a couple other models are indicating that could be the case, then we're looking at the potential for heavy snow. So we are going to get snow. It's way too early to put accumulation amounts on it right now, but just keep in the back of your mind that it could end up being a significant snow event. I'm not leaning towards that right now because there's a lot of factors that have to come together. But the possibility is there, and we'll kind of iron out those details a little bit more as we head into the weekend. We get more data coming in and be able to kind of pinpoint exactly where and if the heavier snowfall will occur. If it does occur, it looks like it'll be in a stretch from northwestern part of the state all the way through the FM area and into areas of western Minnesota. So again, we'll see how that all irons out. For sure, we'll at least get a couple inches out of this. But again, the potential is there for some heavier amounts next Wednesday. So we're not done with winter yet. And this stormier than normal pattern, as the LRC has been predicting for the last couple of months, will continue through the end of the month. And we're not done with the cold weather either. We're more than likely going to get a shot of one more shot of Arctic air after this stormy cycle kind of pushes out of the area towards the end of the month or into very early March. It probably won't last long. But again, we're not done with winter yet. So for the winter enthusiasts, we will have more snow between next week and the end of the month, so you'll be able to enjoy. I believe there's a snowmobile event going out in DL. I believe it's next weekend, so we should have some fresh snow for that. So again, we're not done with winter yet. This is a spring tease that Mother Nature is giving us this week.
Well, it might feel weird to be watching the Winter Olympics where they have way more snow than we do, but it's okay to take that in and maybe feel good about it. This weather live update has been brought to us by Progressive Ag. They are our risk management specialists. We thank Tom and other guests who want to give us a call. They use our JLA insurance phone line. That number is 701-293-9000. And that is brought to us by Nate Thorsrud with JLA Crop Insurance. He's a farmer himself. He understands what these updates that are coming are going to mean to your farm. And you certainly want to talk with him by March 16th when the sign-up period ends. Again, you can reach Nate at JLA. We used on our live stream today, Acres TV, Facebook, YouTube. Lighthouse Commodities makes sure that you can keep an eye on what we're doing through those live streams, as well as, again, send in your comments. We'll read those there too. And our Weather and Ag in Focus emails are sponsored by Superior Grain Equipment. They keep that farm's future safe with Superior Grain Storage, Handling, and Drying Solutions. You can reach them, superiorbins.com. Dean, meanwhile, is weather@flagfamily.com. You can find me at ag@flagfamily.com. Always really happy to hear from listeners with great comments. Again, Tom, we got it. We've got nice warm hearts after Giving Hearts Day. So I have a fun little tidbit for folks. We know that WD-40 runs a lot of farms. It's right up there with blue shop towels and black electrical tape. Well, for those who might not know that the world's most famous lubricant has a very hidden recipe. And by hidden, I mean really well hidden. There is actually a handwritten formula in a lockbox at an undisclosed bank in San Diego. And it is left at a bank, and it's only been taken out 3 times in the last 30 years. This handwritten recipe in a notebook, well, it's the only version that has the full makeup of the original formula of WD-40, and it accounts for nearly 80% of WD-40's revenue, and that's as of August of 2025. So not everything's that high tech. WD-40's been around a long time, and they're just saving the notebook in a very secure location, which probably a pretty good idea for them, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
For the livestock enthusiasts, Hordes Dairyman is hosting their annual dairy cow judging event. As a subscriber on the magazine cover every month, I've been receiving a set of 4 dairy cows to be able to judge. You judge your top set of, your top pair, your bottom pair, and rank them as you think would be best noted if you wanted to, in fact, buy those dairy cattle. Well, contest is almost over. And even if you don't subscribe to Hordes Dairyman, you can just go to the website and look at the classes and decide how you'd like to rank them. There is a class on Ayrshire, the Guernseys. I have also seen the Brown Swiss and the Holsteins. They're very pretty cows. And just for fun, why not go in and enter? There are thousands of people who enter the contest. There are cash prizes. So even if you don't think you're a good livestock judger, why not give it a try? After the contest ends, all of the judges' comments are going to be released as to why those classes would be ranked in the order in which they were. And It's kind of a fun contest. I've seen it since I was a kid when my dad got the Hordes Dairyman. So I just think it's kind of a neat idea to include others in that and let them have a little bit of fun as well. So we are also looking forward to our guest, Gregg Hanson with Market Uncovered. He's going to be joining us after the American Ag Network's livestock report. Our discussion today with Gregg, well, the WDAY report came out earlier this week, and I've had a few questions from listeners who would very much like to get Gregg's feeling on what might be happening, particularly in the soybean market and upcoming planting acres. So look forward to visiting with Gregg. We'll catch up with the American Ag Network next, and we will return after that. And it is a Friday, time to be joined by Gregg Hanson with Hanson Agri Commodities for Market Uncovered, because there's a lot to uncover this week. Gregg, that WASDE report came out. Anything influential in it? How did it look to you?
Nah, that February report, if the government wanted to save some money, you could get rid of that February report. It's very rare there's anything in it that's earth shattering. I can think maybe once in the last 20 years. They did go and raise our corn exports. So it's a massive 3.3 billion bushels of corn we're going to export. And to be honest, we're on that pace, so it makes sense. That brings our carry-in back down to a 2.1. That's where we were a couple months ago. They did not touch anything on the bean balance sheet. Globally, they did go and raise Brazil's bean crop a couple million tons. We were kind of looking for that. They did leave the Argentine numbers unchanged. It was pretty much a snoozer.
Well, sometimes that's not all bad, although the soybean market felt a little more confidence this week. I've had several folks tell me they decided to get the truck out and load them and start hauling.
Well, I think weather's got some grain moving. The bean market, it still feels like we're trading this tweet from a week ago Wednesday. And you would
Mm-hmm.
think, why are we still here if that's what the news is? We did see some Chinese business done earlier in the week. I saw 5 boats. The rumbling was, if you look at the math after we had that big purchase a few weeks ago, did they add up to the 12 million? It sounds like maybe we were just a little shy. So is that 5 boats we did the other day just kind of getting them up to the 12? I mean, it's not that we can't do a boat here, boat there, but when Brazil is so much cheaper than us, why I don't see them buying the volume. But I will give the credit where it's due. We've had the rally on the tweet, and it's held in here. And normally you think, funds buy days of 3, then we should be backing up. There must be something underneath this market that we just can't put our finger on that's holding us here. Because it does feel to me like beans are probably overpriced, and this is a sell for old crop. But we're still here. I mean, we're going to be down 3-4 today, but it was a good week. So, I mean, you got to give the market credit when it's due. It's something's holding this thing up.
Well, and much to people's excitement, right? Because if it's going to be held up and we're going to move some old crop, why not? That's a great feeling as we prepare for 2026. Now,
and it definitely feels like the farmer's been doing that. It feels like the farmer has definitely unloaded some old crop beans, and he's probably way ahead of his normal selling pace on beans. He's behind his corn pace, of course, but he's been able to get beans sold, use that for cash flow, and we definitely are seeing beans moving.
So I was on one of our morning shows earlier today, and we were talking. I was asked several questions that really I'm not the expert for, Greg. That's why we have you for Market Uncovered. And one of the questions was, there's rumor of more incentive to plant more soybeans in 2026. What I've been watching from the buying behavior certainly has looked like a lot of seed corn's been on the move. Do you feel that there's a change in those acres from the corn over to the soybeans based on recent events?
Well, the reason there might be would be what's been going on this month. So it's February. It's the month where we set our crop insurance values. And right now, and I haven't calculated it through today here because we just closed, but we were 40 cents better based on the average through yesterday than a year ago. We were 10.90 something. Before this rally, I would say, yeah, I felt like, there's corn acres out here. There was some talk about crop insurance and ECO values maybe favoring corn. The bridge payment that we should be seeing any day favored corn over beans a little bit when you look at dollars per acre. Maybe that was shifting. I still think the heart of the corn belt wasn't going to do a whole lot of changing. Where we were seeing the additional maybe bump in corn acres above what we thought would be normal rotation, just flipping is the fringe areas, which would be the northern Minnesota. You start getting out into the central part of the Dakotas, more Kansas. Definitely feels like we're getting more corn acres there, and I would argue that could be at the expense of wheat, not necessarily soybeans. But with where the crop insurance values are shaken out, with corn right now about 12 cents below a year ago, and the bean value 40 cents above a year ago, if that holds by the end of the month, and we're halfway done establishing that number now, maybe it could add a few bean acres in some spots.
You make a good point about wheat kind of being the sacrificial lamb in the whole situation. And I get that comment a lot from folks saying, well, how come we don't raise more wheat? And frankly, it just comes down to the fact that we don't have the market for it, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, part of it is when it comes to, where are the wheat customers in the world? They're everywhere but here. So when it comes to exporting wheat, we are the furthest point away from where the wheat needs to go. So we have a freight disadvantage because of the distance. Another issue, and especially like you look at the spring wheat the last couple of years, I mean, whether it's falling numbers or vomitoxin or wrong protein or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Wheat always seems to have a problem. And you never have what the market wants, where corn is corn and beans are beans. And so I think because we've had a couple, 2 or 3 years in a row where people have had off quality, and it's one thing to try to blend, if it's a vomit toxin or a damage thing, but when you've got these fallen numbers, you can't blend falling numbers. It just doesn't work. And that's been an issue. There's still some wheat from a couple years ago trying to get blended off. That's still out here in the country in bends. So I think that's part of the issue is we are seeing because of genetics, because of different climate, global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it. We have more of a corn and bean growing weather now than we ever have, and small grains don't like humidity like this, the
Right.
hot humid, whereas the corn and the beans do. So it's just a better climate for raising corn and soybeans. And now we've got some decent genetics in these early season varieties that we can actually raise a crop in these areas.
That's a very big positive right there. One of the things that I've read over the last couple of weeks is continuing protests in the European Union, particularly in France, et cetera, over the trade agreements that the European Union is making. Do you see any of that having impact in our commodity markets over here, or do you feel that we're a little isolated from that?
Well, with this administration, they love tariffs. You could have a different tariff tomorrow with who knows who. So I guess as long as Trump's in office, you just know that you're one good tweet or one bad tweet away from the market changing. And things are looking okay with China today. That's what that tweet a week ago Wednesday did. But you're one comment from somebody away from everything falling apart. You look at the Canadians; they should be our number one trade partner, and we are clashing over tariffs. So I say with the tariffs, as long as Trump's in office, you're one good or bad tweet away from a rally or a setback, depending on who he's talking about and what he's talking about with them. So you just have to kind of be prepared, I guess.
And those beef producers know it well. They've watched that take some
Yes.
hits at them a couple of times. And one of the items that's happening as far as beef production is concerned, an announcement that we're going to allow some, like about 3% of our total imports to be coming from Venezuela. It's only 3% of our total imports. I realize cattle producers don't like that precedent being set, and for good reason. But in the overall impact of the cattle complex, it's likely not going to be one of the factors that changes what happens for our prices on beef, correct?
No, you got to realize we do import some meat every year. Typically, we've been bringing in some cheap grade meat from Argentina, from Brazil, from Australia, and so what we have been doing is we export the good cuts, the top quality steaks and roasts, but we as a country use a lot of hamburger. And so what we're doing is we're exporting the high dollar cuts and we're bringing in the cheapest stuff to blend in for our fast food for hamburgers. And so that's not going to change unless we can get a drastically larger livestock herd, which is going to flat out take time.
Yeah.
So we're always importing some. It's what are you importing and what kind of volume right now? We would prefer to export only, not import. But I guess if you're exporting something for a high dollar number and bringing it in on a low dollar number, you're money ahead when it's all said and done.
Gregg Hanson, you do a marvelous job with us for Market Uncovered every Friday, right here during Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to say thanks for that. Encourage listeners to send those questions. You can email me, ag@flagoffamily.com. And Greg, how can they find you as well?
Well, you can always give us a call at 507-338-6433. You can check us out on Facebook at Hanson Agri Commodities, or you can always look up our website, hanson-ag.com.
Great visit today, Greg. Thanks for your time. And after the news, ladies and gentlemen, much more to come with a weather recap and some headlines. Holy cow, what if you get breached for your cybersecurity? What if you have someone trying to gain access to your email accounts, to your structure for your farm, wanting to spoof you, wanting to swipe data out of your machinery? There's a way to stop that. You're going to want to talk to Chris Sherman at Tech Support Farm. Go to the website. You can find the fence check assessment, and by filling that out, it gives you a rough idea. Are you protected, or do you need a little bit more work? Again, techsupport.farm is the place to go for the fence check support. Also, we want to introduce Anderco Enterprises to our listeners. They have more than 20 years of business experience with farmers across the region, and their reputation is very much built on experience, reliability, and results that stand the test of time. So if you're considering a new steel commercial, industrial, or ag building like a shop, whether it's for your business or your farm, get it done right. Talk to Anderco Enterprises at 701 277 7078. So, fertilizer, it's got to come from somewhere. We mine it out of the ground in a lot of different places. But, Dean, have you ever looked at not the open strip mines, but how we retrieve fertilizer from underground?
No.
Ever looked at any of the mining operations?
No, how's it done?
Okay, so potash, very prevalent, especially in the western regions of Canada. I've been extremely fortunate to be able to tour the Esterhazy mine twice. And that Esterhazy mine, you go down the center shaft. If I remember right, I went at least a half mile below ground. Might have been a little deeper. I tried not to count the seconds in the elevator. And once you're down, you drive underground 3 to 4 miles. You're quite a distance from that center shaft where the mine machines are actually working. And I always thought they looked like a giant bear claw. And as they ground into the walls and the side of the tunnel, it would drop that potash back on conveyors that then go many miles back to the center shaft to the surface where it gets processed for use in our fields. And we use potash because of the way that it works in the plant to help with its moisture content, with plant health overall and growth. It's one of the things that we probably add most often to a lot of our fields here in North Dakota. Well, there's a new way to be more productive and safe when it comes to that mining. It's called telemining. And actually, operators, instead of having to be below ground and working those machines underneath the earth, what they can now do is be located, I love mining terms, you can be located a few chevrons away. Well, it's not gas stations. That's roughly 300 feet at a skid structure or even stationed on the surface. And then the equipment can be operated remotely. The reason for it is they're trying to avoid accidents that would involve people. They believe the productivity would be better because folks wouldn't be you wouldn't work as many hours for the physically demanding part of the job. And so they would allow them to probably have a competitive edge when it comes to being able to increase the volume. So Allen Mine is starting to use some of these large bore machines and use the telemining. They're very impressed with what it does for worker safety. And frankly, I would be too. So very cool process. I'll have to see if I can find some pictures to send you about what telemining and just mining overall looks like.
Interesting.
When you are underground and they shut off the lights like on your hard hat and so forth, I don't think I can describe to you how dark that is.
you better hope that light stays on.
Yeah. I just remember a whole vehicle load of us were touring, and it was wild. So, speaking of wild developments, University of California, Davis has recently achieved some new work by using CRISPR, which is a form of gene editing. With CRISPR, you can very specifically slice DNA on the DNA strand to move from one plant to the other. Well, they're looking at gene-edited wheat. That could be very revolutionary. The wheat could actually create its own fertilizer from thin air. So what they're finding is that the wheat itself, which is a non-legume plant, so for instance, a soybean as a legume, could produce its own nitrogen. The monocots like wheat and corn can't do that. So if there is a way to use CRISPR for the plant to be able to pull in compounds from the air, they would actually be able to take the nitrogen from the air, and they would be able to mix it with what they're finding in soils, which is more of I think it's called an apigen, and it stimulates this whole nitrogen fixing process with bacteria, and it could actually be a plant that can produce its own nitrogen. If that's the case, you look at the opportunity to decrease what you have to spend in commercial fertilizers that get added to the field, and you look at the chance to have less time in the field. If you're not having to do that extra step of adding fertilizer because the plant does it itself, this could be a breakthrough. Now, that breakthrough looks like it's about 10 years away before they even get close to it. But nitrogen fertilizer does consume, on average, 25% of all operating costs to produce a wheat crop. Plenty of fun facts for you today. Lots of things going on. I think, oh, go ahead, Dean.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I broke Twitter the other day. I asked a question that was posed to me when we were at Agronomy on Ice last week. And this was from someone who's in the tire industry, because as my husband said, nobody burns more rubber than ag. And the question was this, and so for farmers who are listening, and even homeowners, this should be an interesting question for you. The average farm has 228 tires on it, on the ground at any time. And I'm not saying whether they're flat or holding air, that is up to you. But 228. And as people started to count up and respond back to me about how many tires they truly do have, the number was way bigger than you think. And 228 was really easy to get to. So even when you think about your home, how many tires do you have? Vehicles, the lawnmower, trailers, if you have RVs, boats, etc. I mean, boat trailers. So many things that add up to that. So when you think about it, a lot of your dollars can be tied up in tires. And I just thought that was an interesting perspective that we probably haven't considered very often in the past. I had one guy respond back to me and said, look, if I have to start counting batteries too, I'm going to need a support group. I don't think I can do it. So it's a lot of dollars.
Yeah, it adds up, but you don't even think about it.
So, okay, if you're a farmer and you've got a tractor on a tillage tool with a grain cart, and you probably have some anhydrous tanks behind it, you just hit between 80 and 90 tires on just that unit. So I'm going to let that sink in for just a moment. Have you done the math? How many tires do you seem to have at your house now, Dean?
Oh boy, let's see. 4, 8, 12, 16. I've got 16.
I'm pushing 40.
Whoa.
So, but just think about every time you have something in the yard or in the garage, etc., they all got tires. And we're not even talking about the small ones on the yard wagons or dolly carts or anything like that. So, yeah, pretty tremendous head count on those. Well, there you go. I'm giving you all sorts of food for thought, from WD-40 to tires and batteries today.
You're a wealth of knowledge on a Friday.
Useless information, Dean, useless information. But that doesn't mean that people aren't listening, and they may be just sending us their questions and comments as well. And again, you can do that on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000, as well as emails, ag or weather at flagfamily.com, brought to us by Superior Grain Equipment. When we return, we definitely want to recap the weather, as things will change next week, and more ag headlines to come.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And it's another mild afternoon out there. Temperatures across the area now right around 40 to 43 degrees. A little bit different in far northwestern parts of Minnesota, where those areas still in the upper 20s to low 30s due to the lingering fog from early this morning. But I'll tell you what, most of us enjoying a very nice mild day today. And we're going to enjoy a nice mild weekend as we have temperatures in the mid-40s Saturday and Sunday. Now we're looking at record, and you know, if we're this nice out, we might as well put it down in the record books. And it looks like we should be able to on Saturday. Tomorrow's record high is 43, set back in 2002. I do believe we should hit 44 or 45 tomorrow, and then we'll be in the mid-40s again on Sunday. No record on Sunday. Record on Sunday is in the low 50s, but we are getting some indications that some areas could be pushing 50 on Sunday. Wouldn't that be a nice treat? And then we're in the low 40s Monday. And then on Tuesday into Wednesday of next week, we do have a storm system coming our way. And there's two different scenarios that this storm system will play out. And if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, log on to our Facebook page, Weather and Ag in Focus. We've got an article up there about explaining what this storm, how this may impact our area. It could go two different ways, depending on what you like. It depends which scenario you're hoping unfolds, but it'll become a little clearer as we head into the weekend. This storm is still out in the Pacific, so we've got to wait until this gets inland. We get a little better information that way, and we'll be able to kind of hone in on exactly how much snow we're looking at next week. But we do know for sure we're going to get snow on Wednesday. The question is how much, and then after that we do turn colder with a couple more storm systems coming before the end of the month. So something we're keeping an eye on, and taking even a look into March. It looks like we will turn colder towards the end of the month and a little stormy possible continuing into the first week in March, and then it looks like we go back into above normal temperatures. So we'll get about a 2 to 3 week push back into winter, and then right back into above normal temperatures for most of the month of March. We're not done. I still believe we have that one more Arctic push coming before the season is done. We usually do. But again, it'll be a quick rebound back into above normal temperatures once again.
I don't think anybody's going to be surprised at that if we see that fall off in temperatures for a little while again.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal.
It is still February.
It is. Twice a month, we are joined by folks from the Steffes Group to have on the auction block, where we certainly talk about land, but also equipment auctions and some things that are going on in the equipment industry as of late. The math is getting more expensive. And by that, I mean, one of the biggest changes in the current market, especially for used equipment, is the sheer scale of capital that's involved when you're doing a trade. So historically, your depreciation percentages have remained pretty consistent. However, because the base price of new machinery has increased, the dollar amount lost, so to speak, during a trade has doubled. What used to be $75,000 to $100,000 is now frequently a hit of $150,000 to $250,000. While the same math occurs, the actual cash impact on an operation is really severe. So that's forcing a very disciplined approach to equipment management, buying, and purchasing. And there's a scarcity forming in the 2 to 3 year old equipment category. With the latest sales figures, it's kind of starting to explain what's going on. The new sales versus the previous. Buying new equipment, older used equipment. The other totals, that 100 power.
All right, we're having a little trouble with Bridgette there.
Gotta come up a hill. Is it getting better?
Oh, there we go. Now we got you back there, Bridgette.
Okay.
Yeah, we lost you there for a bit.
Yep. Okay. So we're seeing a pretty big hit in the equipment, where normally if we saw these newer equipment trades, we wouldn't have the compressed market for these slightly used equipment on that 2 to 3 year timeline. We're seeing four-wheel drive tractors that it's down 42% year on year for new tractor sales. And for combines, that's 36% below the year before. So really, equipment in the 6 to 10 year old range is like a Best Buy. That's what people are looking for. And so there's more consistency, fewer wild price swings. But by all means, there's some changes that are going on as you look at equipment sales these days. One of those leaders in equipment is certainly John Deere. And love them or hate them, because some both, they have outstanding software packages in the equipment that they bring to the market. And they've made some pretty big changes on their sprayers as of late. So there's expansion in the crops that can be used with seed and spray technology, means that on the boom of the sprayer,
Okay,
is that a weed?
All right, she's back.
Are we better?
Yeah, she's back.
Okay. Okay. You'd think this close to Bismarck, this wouldn't be a problem, you guys. Okay. So a See and Spray sprayer, or even if we want to just call it an optic sprayer, on the booms of the sprayer, you've got cameras out there. And those cameras are working with microseconds to take photos and decide if it is a target, weed, or if it's the crop. And it turns the booms on and off, those nozzles on and off that fast to be able to just target that one plant. So for John Deere, they now have got a wider range of crops that their sprayers can be used in. Previously, it was just focused on cotton, corn, and soybeans. Now they've added wheat and barley and canola. Now, additionally, they've got better framed or better camera placement on the frame as well. They put one on the front of the sprayer, and they're also finding ways to reduce dust. Because you got to think about this. We're in a field, we're driving along. What if it's a little dry and you're kicking up dust? And then it covers the camera. Are you going to stop your sprayer and go out and walk 110 feet of sprayer boom and wipe off each of the individual 38 cameras on the boom? Yeah, probably not. So this is a big improvement for folks. And even if you have a slightly older model sprayer, you can do an upgrade on that camera through the Precision Upgrade Kit. And those are for market years 18 to 26. Also, a higher operating speed. So you can move faster through the field. You can get to 16 miles an hour depending on the crop and its configuration. So that means you can get more done when times are tight. You know, if I get to order spring weather the way I want it, I would love for us to get into planting, get the crop in the ground, and then get the rain on top of it so that that seed has great seed to soil contact, it gets warmth from the sun, and it gets great moisture from the rain. And then we have a wonderful crop that emerges. But in some situations, when you get a bunch of rainfall and you are not able to get in the field in a timely manner, you got to turn and burn as fast as you can when the time is right. And being able to have some of these higher speeds in the field will make a difference for those as well. John Deere is going to have more updates to talk about. They've got Exact Inject, which is a direct injection system that's on board. They've got better displays. They've got a better integration with their John Deere Ops Center coming. Those are all things that I will get a chance to look at when I go down to Commodity Classic in San Antonio at the end of the month. I'll have an opportunity to be able to talk about some of the equipment that we're seeing down there and more. Additionally, thank you to AGCO, because they're going to make sure that I get the opportunity to broadcast from their combines and tractors while I'm down there and give you a firsthand look, especially at some of their new upgrades. They are revealing some new equipment. In fact, I found out yesterday I may have the opportunity to be with a group of farmers at their new tractor reveal. So pay attention that last week of February. It's going to be fairly busy at Commodity Classic. A lot going on for us.
A lot.
So, yeah, there's a lot going on every day in farming. This is just a few of the things.
Well, and with this moisture, I heard you talking earlier on Steve's show, Bridgette. So let's assume we get a good foot of snow, okay? You were saying we'd rather have this later in the season when the ground thaws out, because then we're going to be able
Wouldn't mind it. Yeah.
Instead of now, because it's just going to end up running off anyway. Correct? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to get a bunch of snow and you want to refill some wet spots, like some sloughs and so forth, or some ponds, okay, that sounds helpful. But in the grand scheme of things, when you are dealing with your, recharging that soil profile with moisture, frost has got to be out. Otherwise, the ground's too hard for anything to soak in. So it's a timing issue, right? I mean, if we got things to warm up, most of the frost was gone, we got a big heavy snow and that all melted in, fabulous. But can you say we're going to do that? Maybe not.
No, can't promise that. Can't promise that.
Come on.
I know. Well, that'll do it for Weather and Ag in Focus on this fabulous Friday. Go out and have yourself an awesome weekend with record-setting warmth over the area. Don't go anywhere, though. The Jay Thomas Show, it's coming up next.